which means this character isn't a reoccurring character, which tells me they weren't really trying to represent a marginalized group of people, in my opinion.
And in my opinion, this scene isn't problematic. But your logic does track, though. Hello, Dwebs! I'm Eric.
And I'm Looney.
And welcome to the Looney Turtle. Last year, Mad Munchkin made a video that I wanted to talk about, but I've had some difficulty in how to approach it, because this isn't a hit video or a drama video or a takedown of Mad Munchkin. Instead, she's got me thinking, and I wanted to discuss it further. Believe it or not, I've met her a handful of times over the years, and even had a couple of exchanges where we entertained the idea of putting Looney and Mary Sue in a room together. It was as chaotic as you'd imagine, but this is all to say that there is no bad blood between us. The same lack of animosity could be extended to Vivzy and the Hellova Boss team, but I definitely don't have the same kind of history with them. That said, we are in the wild west of independently animated projects at the moment. Murder Drones, Far-Fetched, Amazing Digital Circus, Hellova Boss, Lackadaisy, Roswell, Candyland?
Huh, thought that was just an NFT one-off.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. Making an animated project is no easy feat, but seeing how they are possible and continue cropping up, I hope to see them grow into something amazing. That's why I keep watching them. That's why I've bought some of the merchandise, and even why I chose to talk about them on this channel.
If you made videos.
Ouch, but you got a point. These projects are coming out in a new way compared to what came before. No studios, no focus groups, no random mergers that result in a project being shelved completely or thrown away. And a result of that is that these projects will inevitably have some different approaches to storytelling, animation, and the overall tone of the projects. Some of them work, while others need some work. Hellova Boss, being one of the earliest to get started in this renaissance, has the most content to look at, and as a result, the most to critique. While I think that some of that criticism is earned, there are times where I think that critics miss the mark. Not because there's no reason behind the critique, but because I think that it's missing the problem in exchange for something superficial or surface level.
But you said Maddie's logic tracked. How could she be wrong about this scene being problematic?
Because while she was right about this character only existing to further Fizzaroli's character, the scene itself is only problematic if you read beyond what the scene actually presents. The core purpose of this character in the story, much like the other characters in Hell and the customers of IMP, is to give the world a bit of texture, to make it feel lived in. Without throwaway customers, IMP doesn't have to kill anyone. Without fans, Fizz doesn't have to entertain anyone. We didn't need to know this guy's name, or this trans chick, or any of the others, but they need to exist so that the writers of Hellova Boss have characters that the main characters can interact with and learn from. That is no different with this character. In this one scene, we learned a multitude of things. Fizz has young fans that aspire to be him. Imps in Hell can, and in some cases do, have disabilities. Fizz cares about inspiring his fans, and most importantly, he cares enough to learn a second language. ASL is easier to learn than, say, French or German, but it's still a skill that takes time and energy to learn. For the purposes of fleshing out Fizzaroli's character, Oliver is a great storytelling device and was used to great effect. This scene may have also foreshadowed something about Fizz, so if he ends up being deaf or hearing impaired, then that would count as yet another thing we learned from this scene.
But isn't it still offensive that he's just a throwaway character with no intention of representation or care for the marginalized group?
The very act of including this character requires intention. He could have just been some other kid, or a kid with crutches, or an adult with a kind heart, but they chose to represent people who use sign language. And the way that this character was presented shows a great amount of care for those who use it. They could have just had him flail his arms without any rhyme or reason. They could have just made a joke about being unable to understand him. But instead, they took the time to animate this entire conversation in sign language. That's effort. That's intention. And to me, it shows a great amount of consideration for representing that particular community. He didn't have to exist, but the way in which he exists in this world isn't inherently harmful, offensive, or groundbreaking for this world. He is a character that represents a marginalized group in a non-offensive manner, and I wouldn't describe that as problematic, which is why I feel that Maddie's logic makes sense. He exists to further Fizz's character, but in that role, he doesn't really present a problem by existing. The problem comes from being critical of the creators rather than the work itself, and at that, Oliver is just a symptom of a bigger issue.
And what, pray tell, is that issue, Mr. Smarty Pants?
The writing. This episode is about Asmodeus trying to get Fizz to quit and Fizz being manipulated by Mammon. They get there in the end, but the the inclusion of these two characters struck me as a bit weird. They show the two sides of Fizz's fame, and this character at least gives us a through line for how the toxic fans were there even in Fizz's early days of performing. But for me, the obsessed fan overstays his welcome, while the kid, honestly, I don't have a problem with this kid. Good work, never change. But this fan just feels like they were building up to something that, for me at least, didn't land. And then they killed him.
Does that mean that he'll never come back?
I hope so. In the Harvest Moon Festival, it said that Millie has a neighborhood head count, but Sally Mae gets to still participate because
It doesn't count if they don't find the body.
So that makes it seem as though the imps are mortal in hell.
But then why do they need angelic weapons then?
Because different races have different rules. An imp can die while a demon can respawn like we saw in the Has-Been Hotel pilot. That said, this character came back so many times and in so many ways only to die. He was an annoyance, and I feel that he was a more worthwhile subject for Maddie's video. Why does this character not work? What is his purpose in the narrative? Did he actually fulfill that role? Were there ways to include these things without the character? Were there ways of doing it without the character coming across as a complete and total drag on the story? At the end of the day, this kid could have had more screen time, but the thing that I feel deserved more analysis got stuck on the wayside because Maddie got so focused on the fine print that she only really starts to broach the subject about 5 minutes into her video. That's fine. I've had more than a handful of times where I've gotten stuck on one thing that I didn't see the bigger picture. It happens in analysis. We dig down certain rabbit holes and make videos about things that honestly could have been relegated to a separate video, if not the trash. In making that analysis and writing those thoughts out, it can be hard to reprioritize the subject of a video or even rewrite what came before. And the more I think about it, that's exactly what happened with this video. My first draft focused so heavily on critiquing Maddie's point that Maddie became a footnote at the end of the video. It was like a rebuttal without the context, so I rewrote it to better approach why I'm making this video and what my intention in making it was. This video was made to say that I don't have a problem with this kid and think that Maddie should have focused on the bad fan, but in the original draft, I went on about the kid, speculating on the reason for the character, what it means to be problematic, and so much more. It definitely was not this version, and I think that it's better for that. But when all is said and done, that's just what I think. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see all of you in the next video.